Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the episode of Triton Nation Podcast. I'm your host, Brandon Gonzalez. This is a special edition. We're kind of in between our first and second seasons of our podcast. Again, we're back at Trilogy Financial Studio. Before we begin, I want to thank Mark, our producer, Mariah, our SID, for all the good work that they do putting this together. But yeah, it's a special episode. It's Athletic Training Month, and I'm here with our Assistant AD of Sports Medicine, Campus Health, Ron Samson.
You can call me Captain.
Captain, there we go.
Absolutely.
And then our lovely athletic trainer, Kayla Osgood. Thank you for being here. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Great.
It's bright and early this morning, huh?
It is.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a beautiful day to get on a podcast, start talking. So we wanted to have a special episode to highlight the good work you guys do, highlight really all athletic trainers out there. We know you guys are oftentimes first ones in the gym, last ones to leave, teaching classes in between your long days and your long hours, keeping all our kids healthy and safe. So first and foremost, thank you guys. Unsung heroes is an understatement for how much you do, and everything from I need a Band-Aid for my nail that came off to, someone's fingers dislocated and popping out the other way. You guys are really there for all of it. So all our listeners, athletic trainers, sports medicine people, we really appreciate the work you do. So for our viewers and our listeners that may not know Ron and Kayla very well, I wanted them to give them a chance to introduce themselves, talk about their history, where they went to school, what got them passionate, kind of the blood going of athletic training. And we'll start with Kayla because, Ron, we've had you on here before.
Yes,
we all know you. So.
I went to school at Concordia University, Irvine, where I got my bachelor's in pre-athletic training and allied health.
Okay.
And then I got my master's in athletic training from the same school. And then before that, I was at Palomar Community College and interned with their athletic training program for about 3 years.
Okay. Are you from the San Diego area?
I am. I grew up in Escondido.
What high school?
Cute little town. Escondido.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
There you go. Escondido High School.
Yeah,
Did you,
small little town.
play sports in high school?
I did. I played softball.
Okay.
And that's how I got into athletic training, is I had my fair share of time in that room. And then I had to take, for my senior year, you had to take health or some other elective, and health was only half of a semester. And it was in the middle of my days. I was like, what am I going to do for the other half? So they had athletic training, and I was like, okay, whatever, I'll just take that.
Okay.
3 classes in, I was like, this is what I want to do.
Okay.
This is going to be my career. And, well, now
There you
I'm
go.
here.
and now you're not only an athletic trainer at Pacifica, a couple years in, you also teach, right?
I do. I teach. It's called Medical Core. I teach at Los Amigos High School in Fountain Valley, and it's just like an introduction into medicine. So they learn everything. We're on how you breathe right now, and then we're learning about the heart, and then they're going to get CPR certified.
Huh.
So all of these things. Just
That's
little
cool.
Baby athletic trainers.
It's cool to see kind of come full circle. Maybe you're that teacher now, or that person who was impactful in your life in high school, right? Who
That's my goal.
taking that class, and hopefully you'll send out, like you said, a bunch of athletic trainers in the world.
That was my goal when I started. I was
That's
like,
cool.
I want to give back to what was given to me.
Yeah. Ron, you've been on here before, but just in case someone's listening for the first time, quick, brief, I know you invented fire, so real quick, if we can,
Fire came in just before I came around.
Okay.
You're close, though.
My bad. Was it the wheel? I can't remember.
It was the wheel. You nailed it on that one. So I graduated high school in Southwest Oklahoma, and about a month or so before graduation, I had no clue what I was going to do. And we had a career counselor come out, visit the class, and at the time, back then, sports medicine was in the top 10 growing fields. And I'm like, well, that sounds kind of cool. Let me check into that. And I did end up going to Long Beach State for my undergrad. I did my athletic training hours at Cerritos College for 2 years, and then got certified, and then moved to Texas for my master's degree, UT Tyler, East Texas, and then worked my way back to California.
All right.
And I've been doing it ever since. It's almost been, next year will be 20 years since I got certified.
Wow.
So it's kind of crazy how fast it's going.
And kudos to you, man. Like a lot of people, what's the new stat? They change careers or jobs, 7 times and they're whatever. But
yeah, I was a little headstrong in that. My family can attest to it. Like, this is what I went to school for. This is what I'm going to do. There's been challenges along the way, but I stuck with it, and I love it. I do. Piggybacking on what Kayla said, just being able to give back to the community and the kids, and hopefully help them have a good high school experience or whatever setting you work in as an athletic trainer is very rewarding.
Yeah.
What
kind of, before we kind of jump into maybe some of the questions, what have you guys seen in it's interesting too that there's a bit of a gap here, but the field has grown tremendously. What are some of the opportunities and doors have opened up through athletic training, kinesiology, sports medicine, as maybe 20 years ago that field wasn't very, like you said, it was the fastest growing field. I didn't have an athletic trainer in high school. I bet you a lot of people didn't.
We didn't either.
But yeah, right? And now here we are. What are some cool opportunities? What are doors that have opened up? What have you seen the benefits coming out of something like this for you personally and maybe other professionals in the field? That makes sense.
I feel like there's definitely a lot more respect now, because at first people were like, you just tape people, like, what are you doing? But it's so much more than that. You learn so much more than that. Like, you're more than just a taper. Like, sometimes you have to be a therapist for somebody. Sometimes you have to, like, run somebody through a rehab protocol. Like, there's so much more now that's actually being appreciated. And then I feel like there's a lot of different opportunities for jobs. Like, you can go work at Disneyland, like, and be an athletic trainer for their dancers or for their cast members, stuff like that. So I think it's growing a lot in that aspect, that there's a wider range of what you can do.
Gotcha.
Yeah, definitely now the schooling for athletic training students coming up is a lot different than when I went through. I worked at Cal Baptist for a couple of years, and they the first year they started their entry-level master's programs, and the students, they did rotations, they did clinical rotations. CBU didn't have football, so they had to go to the place with football. They did rotations with the school surgeon. They did rotations in the ER, and it's just stuff that I didn't have to do coming up through school, which is very interesting. Kind of wish I'd have got that opportunity, but Kayla's generation, athletic training generation, had to do all those rotations, so they get to see a lot more and experience a lot more, which is really good, because I think that better prepares you. Because when I got certified, it's like, okay, you're certified, here you go.
Yeah.
And so, you're in it and you have to figure it out, as opposed to maybe when Kayla came through, she had a little bit more experiences with different types of situations.
Yeah.
That may have prepared them a little bit better.
Yeah.
And I will say this: the opportunities, are so different nowadays. And in the last 10 years, I've worked in a lot of those different settings. The industrial settings. She mentioned Disneyland, which is great. Professional. We work in what's called the traditional setting, which is a high school. But you've got, college, university, your pro, military employees, athletic trainers. For basic trainings and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The industrial setting is neat. So there's just a lot of opportunities. I think that's the theme for this year's athletic training month, is ATs providing, like, where they provide services, and it's everywhere.
Yeah.
You can employ an athletic trainer in just about any setting nowadays, which is really good. And that goes back to the respect that Kayla mentioned before. Just there's a lot more respect for our position and what we can bring and what we can do.
Yeah.
It's not just taping ankles and throwing an ice bag on somebody.
Right.
There's a lot more to it.
No, and it's true. It's even in my own profession of being an AD, I don't know, 10, 15 years now. I remember one of my first school. I was a girls soccer coach, and a girl the day before we were in a game, and she got hit in the head, and we felt she had a concussion. We didn't have an athletic trainer, so I just made the call to sit her. She didn't play the rest of the game. She went home that night, and I told her parents, like, hey, I think you should go get her checked out. And she came back to practice the next day, and she's ready to play. And I was like, hey, and well, you're back. Like, are you okay? Like, yeah, my parents said I'm fine to play. It's great. I'm like, okay, well, how do you feel? She's like, I'm okay. Like, I woke up in the middle of the night with a bloody nose, but I'm okay. My parents said I can play. I'm like, nope. Like, that's not happening. Like, I know enough to know, like, I'm not putting you back in.
Right.
But in that moment, our school didn't have a full-time athletic trainer. It was, 10 years ago, it was kind of becoming the thing to do. And I used that to just kind of put a proposal, like, we need an athletic trainer, because at the end of the day, you guys have that final call. It's not a coach, it's not an administrator, it's not a teacher, and quite frankly, sure, every parent's a doctor to some degree, but a school relies on that athletic trainer to make that final call, and you have that final say. And there's a lot of, you're right, a lot of empowerment, a lot of, no, this is their profession, this is what they're supposed to do, we got to trust them in what they're doing. And I remember in that moment, I grew a lot of respect for, like, having to make that call, because I was like, no, bloody nose, I'm not putting you back in. That's no way. Okay, so we're kind of on these lines a little bit, but how have you seen, I'll start with this question. How have you seen, coming out of a pandemic, now we're we're one full year in of sports kind of going back to normal, right? Last year, we kind of had all the sports hit the ground running at the same time. So injuries were expected, injuries were maybe overuse, right? Mental fatigue. You can kind of pick and choose what we thought could have caused more injuries when everybody's playing at the same time. But here we are now, full school year in, kind of back to a routine. Have you seen an uptick in injuries? Have you seen things kind of go back to normal, for lack of a better word? Are kids mentally maybe just not as with it? Soft isn't the right word, but just not as mentally tough maybe because they've been out for so long. I don't know if this question is making sense. Have you seen in your profession an uptick in injuries, an uptick in issues, or if things kind of mellowed out again?
I would say last year there was a big uptake just because everybody was being able to do everything all over again.
Yeah.
So you had kids playing 3 different sports at one time, or they were doing high school ball and club ball.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, there was no rest period. So like there was a lot of overuse stuff then, I feel, or just like a bunch of soreness that wouldn't go away because you couldn't stop. Now I think it's probably back. Like just
Seems
the
normal
usual
now.
bumps and bruises. Like you have your occasional like catastrophic, not catastrophic, but bad injury
out of the normal.
out of the limb, like
Yeah.
broken collarbone, like ACL, something like that.
Yeah.
So I think we're getting away partially from overuse, but the mentality, I think it's starting to come back.
Okay.
Because in the very beginning last year, they were like, I don't know how to talk to you anymore.
They were behind a
Type
screen.
thing. Yeah. So I think that's the biggest thing I noticed is people are finally learning how to come out of the shell,
Gotcha.
like from COVID. So
I think, Pacifica was a little unique in the sense that we just kind of kept going.
Yeah, right.
Right? Honestly, we may have been one of the only schools in Southern California that just kept trucking.
Yeah.
We had kids on campus and stuff. So I think we got to alleviate a little bit of that. But I would agree, like, having to take a break, because we did, things got shut down. And then having the kids all come back, a lot of them being inactive for that period of time. You did see the uptick in the injuries. But I would agree with Kayla. I think this year's just kind of, it's back to your normal, you got your normal seasons and what you would expect to see in those seasons. You still get those athletes with the overuse stuff just because you've got some kids that just don't stop.
Yeah.
They go one sport right into the next and don't give themselves a break. But overall, I think a lot of it during the pandemic, there was a lot of the, the emotional and maybe the mental component from just either staying at home or not being able to do things, or there were a lot of people that were scared, for lack of a better word, and concerning, and that's justifiable, I think, and then having to get themselves back out there and stuff like that. So it was definitely an interesting time. I am happy though that we were able to kind of keep going and try to keep some sense of normalcy for the kids, the families, and ourselves. So
It's very true.
Yeah.
For parents, school is such an integral part of the family life, right? So being able to be open and have kids, getting out the energy and being active was just very important, especially like you said, like when everyone else was kind of shut down. In that sense, what is your guys' thoughts on how? And I'm curious to know both your perspectives, but how has athletic training changed from maybe Ron when you stepped in to Kayla, even what you've seen change in the last 2 years with everything? Because now there's like return to play protocols if you've had COVID, right? There's like return to play protocols for everything, it seems like nowadays. But what are some of the biggest differences you've seen over your 20-year career and even your 3 or 4 year career that you've been with us in the workplace outside of school?
So I guess since I have a bigger gap to cover,
And just a few bullet points. I mean, the wheel to now is a long time, so we just need a few things.
let me see if I can condense everything down. I think the education component for athletic training students has come a long way. We touched on that a little earlier. Technology does play a role in that.
How so? I'll stop you there. I'm curious on that one.
So just with injury tracking software,
Okay.
Makes it easier for documentation. Well, it's supposed to make it easier for documentation. Sometimes it doesn't. I don't know. Documentation is a huge thing. You want to make sure you're covering your basis with documenting everything that you do. It protects the students, protects the school, protects yourself. So although, like when I came in, they pushed documentation, it's a lot easier now to type it up real quick, either on a phone, computer, tablet, than it was to, let me get the piece of paper out if you're out on the field and write it down. It's all,
Yeah.
paper's all wrinkled and it was just a hassle, or trying to remember everything you did once you got off the field or whatnot. Mentioned education. I think one of the big things, concussion protocol has changed a lot
Dramatically
in the last 20 years, and there's a lot more attention paid to it, and not just for on the field. Now the return to learn, now, we correspond a lot and communicate a lot with the teachers when one of our athletes has a concussion, to work with them in the classroom, because there are protocols to, getting kids back in the classroom and how they learn and how it affects homework and testing and just focus in class. The return to play protocol after having COVID, I know a lot of schools, especially in LA County, were extremely strict with that. We followed ours, to the best of our ability. Huh?
Said I hope so. I'm trusting you on that one.
No, we did. But just, learning how to deal with that and what to look for, because now you're dealing with cardio issues, or cardiac issues, excuse me. And it's just interesting. There's always something to learn in athletic training because it's ever evolving. What I like about it for me is, especially with Kayla coming out just now, I get to learn something new. I knew what I learned 20 years ago, and I know what I know from experience of doing it for 20 years, but there's always something new to learn. And part of changing as you get older is being willing to adapt and being flexible. And I think athletic trainers as a whole, the profession, you have to be flexible, think outside the box, because you get back, you didn't have an athletic trainer in high school. I didn't have one. Didn't have the budget. When you do have an athletic trainer, they're basically working out of a closet, out of no room at all, and minimal supplies, and you get creative. So the flexibility and being able to adjust and think on the fly over the years, and that adds to your experience. And it's fun. It can be challenging, frustrating, but I guess those were a few bullet points. I could probably go on and on, but
Kayla's turn.
Kayla's turn.
I think I'm kind of like an awkward year, because when I first started, like with my community college, everything was still paper, and then over time everything started to transition to electronic. So I learned how to do both. I learned how to do the paper one, and then when I got into my college, they did everything on iPads. You just input everything that way. So I think I'm in a way blessed because I had both ends. Like I don't have to rely strictly on technology to get me through. Like I can also rely on everything else. And then I think with my generation of athletic training, we use a lot more modalities because those were coming out more. So like I do the cuppings, I do Grastons. We had all of these different ways to do stems, like ultrasounds, which I'm sure was already there and stuff, but there was so many more changes to it. So I felt like you, in a way, could help get an athlete back faster than just like, let's wait it out and see. Like now we can manipulate tissues like different ways and stuff like that, which I think is really interesting. And they always like freak out about it. And like, am I going to get the circles? That's like the goal.
I know, it's like a cool thing to do.
It looks
right?
cool.
Yeah, seriously. That is interesting to hear the different, and your part on just the advanced science, right, that there's now to help athletes and, professional athletes, high school athletes, anywhere in between, get back faster. And you're right. I see our kids who maybe 10, 15 years ago wouldn't recover as fast, and we have a great staff. And you guys don't work out of a closet anymore.
No.
We have a nice little facility there.
Phenomenal facility.
So what is some, as we kind of tail in towards the end of our time together, what is advice, you guys would give to someone out there who has no idea, there's so many different careers now you can jump into, right? And there's so many different, and not all necessarily sports, just in general, but like I'm a high schooler and I want to go take kinesiology in college. Sports medicine entices me. It sounds interesting. Like, what's advice? What are things people should do to, talking to high schoolers out there right now?
I would definitely say make sure you know yourself. Like, if you are a person who cannot handle stressful situations or like high intensity situations, like athletic training may not be for you, because most days, they're super mellow. Like you don't have to do a lot, but there's days where you have to like flip that switch and go into that like emergency protocol, and you have to maintain a calm head.
Yeah.
Because if you're not calm, then that athlete's going to freak out. So I think just knowing what you can handle, knowing what you're capable of is the biggest aspect. And if you love sports, like, this is a great job.
Yeah.
You get front row seats, don't have to pay.
Yeah. Travel with the team.
Travel everywhere.
Yeah.
So
That's a great answer. It's hard to follow that one. I would say do your research. If it's something that this is a field that you're interested in, really do the research and see what it entails.
Yeah.
There is some downtime.
yeah.
There is the travel, the long hours. It can be challenging with the long hours and stuff. I've gone, and depending on the setting you want to be in. If you want to be in a traditional setting, the hours are a little different than if you're working in an industrial setting or the clinical setting where it's more 8 to 5, 9 to 5, weekends off kind of a thing. So do your research and kind of see what setting you want to go into, because that does make a big difference in choosing the profession and if you can get into it. But I agree, you look at yourself, if you were an athlete, or even if you weren't an athlete but you love sports coming up, this is a fantastic profession. You're just around the athletic world the entire time, but you're not limited to the athletic world because you can go work in the industrial setting, you can go work in the military, you can do other things with it. And if you enjoy learning about the human body and helping other people and giving back, this is a great profession for you, but you got to do the research.
Yeah. And I'm sure it'll help too, with Kayla, your role being at a school and teaching. And does your school district, or Los Amigos, right, you said, do they offer kind of like TA programs for these kids? So can they be in the class and then, be like a TA to an athletic trainer and go shadow them and work practices and stuff like that? Is that common in high school for kids to do that? I think it is, but I don't know.
Most high schools do. I remember mine did it. Like, you could go be a student aide, and if there is like a medical class like that, then most of the time it's potentially the athletic trainer who teaches it. So it just goes kind of hand in hand.
Gotcha.
I feel like mine does, but I haven't investigated that as
Gotcha.
much. But I think it is a great thing, because I've had so many kids ask me, like, how do I know? How do I get into this? It's like, you just need to go intern. You need to literally shadow somebody for a day and be like, is this something I can see myself doing?
Yeah.
Is this something that I like?
Yeah.
Because sometimes you just need that taste.
Yeah,
and you're like, yes, or, oh, like, no thanks.
Well, and I'd have to imagine, I love you guys, or you're a valuable part of our team, but you have to also have this like willingness to serve. I feel like, because like you guys are the ultimate, all our coaches, we all love our kids. I'm a coach too, but we're trying to win games. We're trying to, get our winning percentages up. But you guys I feel day in and day out, you're truly there to serve people. You're there to serve the kids. You're there to serve the parents. And like, if you don't have that heart of service, I could see where it can get hard, and you can become bitter that all you do is serve ungrateful kids all day. But like, but the reality is I've never seen that from you guys. You've always showed up day in and day out, and you've served our community, and I'm so grateful for that. And I think as people look into the world of athletic training, you need to have a heart of service, because I feel like that is pretty much what you're doing every day. So last question before we go: who wins March Madness? Let's go. Brackets are getting done. We need to know who you guys are picking, and if you don't follow basketball, just pick a team. We'll see what happens.
The one that has the pretty colored jersey.
There you go.
That's literally how I pick them, is like by their name, and if their jersey looks cool.
Austin's the one who always wins.
I was gonna say, oftentimes you're right.
All the way.
Oftentimes you're right. What about you?
I filled out my bracket. I got the Zags winning.
Really?
I don't know if my heart's in it, but just kind of going through it, they're pretty good.
All right.
I'm not necessarily rooting for them, but that's who I chose because there's bragging rights on the line. So
it's true. I put Duke, but we filled out 3 brackets, so who knows what'll be.
I know, right?
My other 2. Well, thank you guys for your time. I appreciate you being here. Thank you for all athletic trainers out there. This is a special edition of our Triton Nation podcast. You can find us on Spotify. You can go to our new athletic website that is up finally, pacificathletics.org. Check us out on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Thanks, guys.